Cool, let's do this. Hi everybody, welcome to Mike's Classic Games. I am Mike, so we're going to try this again. We did a video last month and I decided, you know what, let's try another one for Mike's Classic Games because I had an interesting event happen this morning that kind of prompted it. I was out doing my regular rounds of checking for cool vintage game stuff around my local area thrift stores and came across a bag that had some controllers in it. And I wanted to do a video about this anyway, but it had some controllers in it. And I bought it specifically for one controller, but there were a couple other good ones in there. And this bag cost me $3. And what it had in there was these. I had a couple of Atari controllers in there. I'll get to those in a second. But the other cool thing that it had, and this isn't what we're going to cover, but it had a Nakitech 3DO controller. These are very tough to come by, and I'm very happy to find one. And you can tell it's a 3DO controller. It looks a little bit like a Sega controller. It's got the classic 9-pin connector on it. But what this has on it is this has another port on the top, because with the 3DO, what you would do is you would actually just run your controllers in sequence up to 4 players. You can't really do it otherwise because 3D only had one port. So it's one player with a Sega Genesis controller, or you could string your controllers together if they were actually 3DO controllers. So that was an exciting find. But what we're going to talk about today are these. I wanted to do a video about the care and feeding of your Atari joystick. Now, as you guys know, I'm an Atari guy. I always have been, ever since 75 when I was born. 3 years later, the Atari 2600 came out. My dad bought one. Grew up on Pac-Man, Lock and Chase, and a bunch of other fun ones. But these have kind of become a bit hard to find. Now, these ones a little less so. These ones, and I'll show you why I know this in a minute, but these are actually from a flashback. These ones are, well, I'll show you why in a minute, but these are from the flashback 2. I do actually have an original one over here. One of the good old boys. We're going to talk about these later on, but these ones are very, very close. And they're okay. They have hard plastic rather than the rubber for these, and they are screw off, which is what the flashbacks had. And given that these are black in there and not the orange color, I can tell that these are from the Flashback 2. The Flashback 3 actually had them in red, whereas older controllers, and some of the other Flashback controllers, but older controllers actually had the rubber, had that classic rubber on there that you could take off and never get back on. I do want to talk about that, but this was known as the CX40 controller, and this is one of the ones that came out with the system back in 70. I think it was 78. Atari was founded in 1972 by Nolan Bushnell and Ted DeBase. But Nolan Bushnell to me is a god, and he started developing video games just over there at the University of Utah back in the 60s and 70s in their computer labs. It was kind of the birth of the modern day video game, and this is what a lot of us grew up on, was this controller. There's so many different ones now. There's countless number of controllers for countless number of systems. But this is what we sat in front of the TV with. So these have become a bit of a premium, kind of hard to find, but you can find them used and busty in thrift shops and around online. And so I wanted to give you a real quick lesson about how to care and feed your Atari joystick, and since I picked these up, we'll use these as a demo. Plus, on top of that, we have rattlies. We have rattlies in both of them, so we're going to take care of that. But I'm going to show you the inside of the other one as well. But let's dig into this, see what's up. I have not plugged these in. I've not tried these. Now, I do have a couple of Atari flashbacks with me. I've got a Flashback 7, and I recently got a Flashback 9 Gold, which kind of stopped my collecting for the flashbacks, because the Flashback 9 Gold actually has an SD slot so that you can load other games on it if you load the proper firmware on it. Mostly that's what it's worth for firmware, but if you load the proper firmware on it, you can actually just play games right off the SD card. So I digress. I've got one of those systems here we can use to test. If any of you are interested about the Flashback 9 modding, maybe I'll do a video of that later, but it's pretty cool stuff. And when I was actually finding an SD card, it's a standard SD card that it takes. The smallest I could find over at Walmart for $6 was 8 gigs. The entire collection of Atari 2600 and like all of the foreign ROMs and hacks and everything like that is less than 2 megs. So it's kind of overkill, but that's all right. So let's dive into this thing. Let's tear this apart. Let's see what the rattlies are. I'll show you the inside of these and how best to clean them and take care of them. Okay, so I'm going to try and stay on my little work surface here, but let's tear into this. Now, these, like most Atari joysticks, just have 4 standard screws. Here's the other reason. A lot of the old ones didn't have Atari stamped in the bottom. These were for the remakes, for the flashbacks. But gotta have a nice deep screwdriver and just wiggle around and you'll feel it click. Or you won't. Do I have the wrong size? I might. I think I do. Way to go, Mike. First day back, and you're already not being able to unscrew things. Now, pretty easy. Yeah, see, these are much smaller screws as compared to, in this, you can see these are pretty mighty, whereas these are quite tiny little screws. Yeah, you see that, they're kind of small. But let's go ahead and pull the rest of this apart. Let's check what's rattling around there. I don't think it's gold. I don't think it's candy. God, I hope it's not candy. God knows how old that stuff is, but I know some of you have seen some of my pinball videos. You know that skanky old candy tends not to scare me. Okay, yeah, so this is indeed one of the ones with the smaller board. I'll show you a comparison in a minute here with one of the larger ones, but this is one of the ones with the smaller board on it. We did have a little busty. I'm not entirely sure where that came off of, but I'm sure we'll find it. God, hoping that it's not somewhere too horribly critical. Now, down on the plate here, we just have one small screw. You're going to want to take care of things. Now, I have this on video, but when you are going to take one of these apart, it's always a good idea to take pictures. So there we are. We've got standard plates, standard contact plates on there. In this case, I'll show you the other ones, but this actually has the 6 points soldered directly onto the board. It doesn't look like there's any corrosion or anything really there, and it looks like these are pretty clean. There's a little bit of dirty in here. Then, of course, we've got our pads. Button. And then what we're going to do is we're going to unscrew the stick for this one. We're going to take that out. Now, this is the centerpiece that goes through and does contact points with this, and this is most indeedly where we have found our break. Now, as you can see there, that is broken off. The nice thing is that looks like a nice clean break, and that looks like that is salvageable with some super glue, and that should hold pretty well. So I will go retrieve all that in a few minutes, and meanwhile, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the ring. I wanted to show you this. On a lot of these games, or a lot of these game controllers, people will take this off. They'll take off the whole rubber thing, or they won't take it off at all when they're cleaning. But there is this nice, sweet rubber that fits under this cowling here. Now, this cowling, it is a nightmare to get that back in there, but it doesn't have to be. because on a lot of games, actually, there is a clamp ring, a cowling ring there that comes out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull that out because I wanted to show you this, how to do this. It's almost identical on different controllers as well, but it's just little snap push points around the edge of this. This is the same in a lot of controllers as well. But a lot of the Atari controllers, especially in the CX40s, which is the most common of the Atari controller. Back then when they first came out, there were two different kinds. There was a CX10 and the CX40. The main difference is that one has a 10, one has a 40. No, I'm kidding. The main difference was actually the button color. There were some other small differences inside, but the original CX10, which came first, actually was orange, or was red, and then the other one was orange. So I've pulled that out. What I'm going to do is I've pulled the rubber out real quick, and I'm going to go around. I'm going to push carefully. Usually I'd use a plastic tool to do this, but I don't have it. So then you can go and you can just push that ring, and that ring comes right out. And then it'll just snap back in place. That way you can clean the rubber, or if you're doing a full one, a rubber stick, you can clean that properly now. So now what I can do is I'm going to go get my super glue. We're going to take a break for a second. I'm going to get my super glue and my alcohol. We're going to clean the contacts on here just with alcohol and a Q-tip and just make sure it looks good. We're going to wash these real quick. They look pretty good, but I'm going to go ahead and wash them anyway, along with the stick. And we are going to wash the pads, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to glue this. And I'm pretty suspect that that other one has the same issue. This was a common problem with this particular controller, was that snap, and I got a similar rattly there, so I'm guessing that's probably the problem. So we're going to take a break for a few minutes. I will come back to this. We're going to clean this, and I'm going to go get my proper glue that we're going to use to fix this bit, and then let's let this dry properly. So we'll see you back here shortly. Okay, my friends, we're back. So I wanted to actually teach you a trick, because we're going to glue this back on, but I don't really have time for this, to sit and wait for this to set for days and weeks properly. So here's what we are going to do. I'm going to teach you a little bit of a trick. A lot of people recommend activator, and that is very good stuff. I don't have any. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put it on there, and we're going to do this in a careful manner so that I don't get it all over my dang fingers. And we're going to set it down, all kind of put together. Here's what I'm going to do, actually. I'm going to do this on here. I'll show you what we're going to do, if this works. So we're going to have to hold it for just a second and let it set, but then I want to reinforce it a little bit too. So we're going to cut this real quick. Okay, so once we've got that set, we're going to put another layer up on top here, just kind of over the crack. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with just a pinch of just bog standard baking soda. Yep, baking soda. Now, that doesn't look pretty. It's not supposed to look pretty. I did get a little bit along here. I'll take that off. I'm just going to put a tiny bit there. And then same dealio, just a pinch of baking soda. Now, Mike, why are you putting baking soda on there? I'll tell you why. Otherwise, it'd be a crap video. That is now solid as a rock. That is like rock hard on there. What happens is when baking soda hits super glue, it just instantly solidifies the whole thing. And so that's a really good trick if you're in a rush for a quick repair, but in the next 10 minutes or so, that is good. I mean, it's hard now. That is rock hard now. It's almost better than the chemicals that you can spray on it. It's just bog standard baking soda is all I'm using. And it just does such an amazing job. So now that's repaired. And we're gonna put that off to the side and we're gonna wash this stuff real quick. Now, when I'm cleaning, if it's bad, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and give it like a really, I'll get out a bath basically for it and give it a nice soapy bath. But in this case, these really aren't so bad. So I'm actually just gonna use a disinfecting wipe. Because plus on top of that, God knows where this came from. But, no, I'm just kidding. I can just give everything a nice wipe down. I try not to get a lot of moisture down in the chamber. Or if there is moisture down in the chamber, I let it dry out before I really do anything. Now, the reason for that is, even though this circuit board is an incredibly simple board, it is still prone to rot. And these things can rot. Now, while I've got my disinfecting wipe, the other thing I'll do is I will just take and do the cord like this, and I'll give this a couple of runs. And you can see, look at all the crap that was on there just on one run. So just take and run it through a soapy rag or a disinfecting wipe. I prefer a disinfecting wipe for obvious reasons. It disinfects. So yeah, I mean, look at that. All nasty. So now that's nice and clean. All of these contacts on here look good. Now I have wiped down these with alcohol, which you don't really want to use anything else because again, you don't want to get board rot, which is when traces start to lift and it starts to get all nasty. It's a very simple board, so there's not a huge risk of it, but why risk it? So now I wanted to show you the other kind of boards. This is out of that bog standard one. And here's, again, it's really simple. It's just 6 connectors. Now these connectors, so you know, slide on and off. So what I'll sometimes do is if I'm doing like a big restore on one of these, I will clean this off with a brass brush, not a steel brush, but a brass brush, and along here to make sure there's good contact, because brass brush won't scratch everything up. And then these are just traces that's under basically a big piece of tape down to these little metal push buttons. Now I've already done these, but what you can do is if this peels off and it's all nasty, kind of like this one is, you can just replace it with a big piece of, fat piece of packing tape and then just cut your holes appropriately. Just make sure that those three, the 3 fingers are sitting properly where they need to. And you can see you don't want them to be making contact. You see if you can see on here, you can see there's a trace, along here that comes down and then goes under here, and you see the fingers go to there and there, but not under there. Because what you want to have happen is this has a pad under it or a connector under it, so when this pushes down, now this is making contact with the ground so that it fires. So you want to make sure that your placement is good and you're not shorting out on any of your pads. So that can be a systematic problem. If you have one that's a little bit wonky or something, it could be that your pad is out of adjustment, or you can take these up and you can clean underneath. If they get really gummy like I've seen in the past, you can actually just use a little bit of alcohol and a Scotch-Brite and then just rub it with alcohol afterwards to make sure it's all cleaned up. But then, put new tape down on it, make sure that they're all nice and clicky, a bit like hitting the top of a mason jar. Just really fun. So that's kind of what the inside of one of those looks like. That's what a regular board will look like. But these boards obviously are a lot simpler. They were made a lot later, but it's the same basic principle. what's going to happen is you're going to have these pads, and those pads actually, those are little conductive black parts on there, and what they will do is once they push down, they complete the circuit, kind of like those little metal hat pads do. But those complete the circuit. So you want to make sure that these are clean too, which I have done, but you want to make sure that they're in good order, not cracked or anything like that. Now, if there are parts on a lot of like the original CX10 and CX40 controllers that are problematic or broken, you can get replacements. I will link to a couple of places down in the description where you can get replacements for Atari stuff and some other stuff as well. But I figured I'd share that with you, and you guys could look into that if needs be. So I'm going to really quickly, I've cleaned up the rest of that. On this rubber, I really kind of stretch it out a little bit and get down in there, make sure that all of the finger goop and crap that was down in there is all out of there. Make sure that it's nice and clean. Same with the ring. And then the buttons as well, and everything else is nice and clean at this point. So I'm going to start putting this one back together, and I am going to do the same repairs on my other one here. And then once we're done, I'm going to join you back again, and we'll go ahead and take a look at how well we did or didn't do. So I am going to take a second here and just reassemble this one. So you make sure that the that goes down as it needs to. And then you just trace around where all of this fun crap goes. Thus. So the best thing you can do is on here, it's 1, 2, 3 screw holes. 2 of them just go through it. 1 of them actually screws in. But again, that's what pictures are for when you get started. We've got the one that goes back down in here, but before you do that, you've got it lined up. What you need to make sure is that you put everything else back together first. So, yeah, that looks nice. Yeah, get that back on there, and then just kind of make sure that's lined up. And just push it back down into place, and it will snap back down in. So you got to push a little bit. But this is the same way you put on one of these other style of rubber heads, the kind that are rubber that have the white slot beneath them. I'll show you those on another video, but that's how you'd replace those and actually get it to come back down in properly. Is remove that cowl, take everything out, wash it, then lay it back in and then put the cowl back in. All right, let's take a look here. Buton. Little nipple. Believe I do have that right. Now, here's where this lovely little piece comes back into play. That sits on there, and yeah, everything's dry, nice and solid. Always good to test fit everything, make sure it's good. Okay, now. Okay, so now that's all back on there. Little screw. Get that back down on there, make sure that's nice and even. Always towards the front. No more rattly, thank God. I love about magnetic heads. One. I always do them crisscross. I just habit. 40 years doing this. Habit. Started taking my crap apart when I was 5. Good. Okay. That screws back down in. We have good motion. Everything feels good. All right, so we've got that back together, looking really nice. No rattlies. We're all good. Cord's clean. Contacts are clean. So I'm going to do the repairs on the other one real quick, just while I've got everything out. And then in a few minutes, we will plug in the we'll plug in the 7 out front, my flashback 7, and we'll give these a try. Make sure they're working. All right, we'll see you in a minute. Okay, everybody, so here we are. This is our Flashback 7, and these are the controllers that we've just gone through and cleaned up and done, did some fixes on. Let's give it a shot. Take my controller. Nice. Yeah. Let's see, right, left, up, down. See if I can do this one-handed while holding the damn camera. Give me the ball. Give me the ball. Okay. Let's try this guy. Player 2. Yep. Way over. Okay. Cool, but we are working. Nice. So it looks like that was successful. Cool. That makes me happy. Now I've got a couple more Atari joysticks. I hope some of you guys got a little bit out of this. I hope that you guys learned a little bit. Please leave me any comments, concerns, questions. Let me know any questions you have. I want to do some more Atari videos. I want to go a little bit more into depth on some of the other controllers, maybe on some of these systems. So let me know what you guys think. I've got some more of these planned, but like I said, I'm going to be doing these very rarely. Mostly going to have to do with the time schedule of my pinball work. But thank you for joining me on this, and please like, share, subscribe, and then let me know if you have any old vintage video game stuff laying around that your wife wants you to get rid of. And send it to me. I'll happily accept it and give it a good home. And then, of course, if anybody, this is my standard plug. If anybody has a 3DO that's an old busted 3DO, now I actually have a controller. Yes. And let me know, and we'll work out some kind of deal. But thank you for joining me, and we will see you guys again later. Have a good day. Bye.